The sky burned red that day. The tall grasses of the savanna swayed in the hot wind, whispering secrets only the earth could understand. In the middle of it all, a young lion cub named Rami crouched low, his heart beating so fast he thought it might leap from his chest. His mother lay nearby, still and silent. She had fought the hunters with everything she had, teeth, claws, heart. But in the end, the loud sticks they carried roared louder than any lion's cry. Now she was gone, and Rami, barely 6 months old, was alone. The air smelled of smoke and gunpowder. The vultures were already circling overhead. The cub knew if he stayed, he would die too. With one last look at his mother's lifeless form, Rami turned and ran. Days passed. Rami stumbled through dry riverbeds and thorny bushes, his ribs sharp against his fur. Every sound made him flinch. Every shadow felt like danger. One night, under a sliver of a sickle moon, he wandered near a village. It was a poor village, built from cracked mud bricks and faded hopes. Most of those people were asleep, their lanterns dimmed, but one house, set apart from the others, still glowed with firelight. Inside, a man sat, hammering iron. His name was Isaac, the village blacksmith. Strong arms, a quiet mouth, and a heart still aching from the loss of his wife years ago. He lived alone now, speaking only to his hammer and the stars. That night, when Isaac stepped outside to cool his face, he saw two glowing eyes from the bushes. He didn't move. The cub didn't either. It was a long moment, filled with breathing and heartbeat and the weight of two broken souls recognizing each other. Isaac didn't shout. He didn't run. Instead, he knelt down, placing a small piece of cooked goat meat on the ground. He whispered into the night. The first few nights, Rami didn't dare come closer. He watched from the dark, his small body hidden behind thorny bushes, while Isaac placed scraps of food a little nearer to the doorway each night. There were no cages, no ropes, only patience. Days became weeks. The gap between lion and man slowly disappeared. One evening, as the golden sun dipped low, Rami stepped out of the shadows. Isaac didn't move. He simply sat by the fire, softly hammering a small piece of iron into a ring. Rami crept forward and snatched the meat. But instead of running back into the darkness, he stayed. That night, Rami curled up outside the blacksmith's house, the warm glow of the fire dancing across his golden fur. It was the first time he had slept without fear since his mother's death. And Isaac, sitting by the doorway, whispered with a small smile, "You're not a cub anymore, little king. You're finding your pride again. Come, little king, there's no hunters here." The seasons turned like pages in an old book. Rami grew tall and strong. His shoulders thickened. His mane began to bloom into a dark, majestic crown. Every morning, Isaac fed him scraps from his own small meals. Every afternoon, Rami followed Isaac to the forge, lying nearby as the old man hammered iron into tools for the village. The villagers stayed away at first, fearful of the great lion. But over time, even they began to understand. Rami wasn't a wild beast. He was Isaac's companion. The two were inseparable. At night, Isaac would speak softly to Rami about his wife, about the days when laughter filled his home. Rami would rest his huge head against Isaac's lap, his golden eyes filled with a wisdom that only grief can bring. They were not master and pet. They were two lonely souls who had chosen each other. They were family. But time is a river that never stops flowing. Isaac's hair grew whiter. His hands, once so strong, trembled at the forge. His back bent under years of hard labor and sorrow. Rami noticed. He stayed closer, watched more carefully, carried firewood between his jaws when Isaac grew too weak to lift it himself. They didn't speak about it, not with words, but both knew the end of their story together was coming. One cool evening, Isaac sat beside the fire, looking up at the stars. He turned to Rami, his voice thin but steady. "One day soon, little king, you'll walk this world alone again. But remember, no matter where you go or how heavy your heart feels, you are loved, and love doesn't die." Rami, understanding in his own ancient way, licked Isaac's worn hand. The bond between them was beyond language, beyond fear, beyond anything that could be broken by time. The day came without warning. It began like any other, quiet, with the orange glow of dawn bleeding across the sky. Rami nudged Isaac awake as he always did, a soft push of his massive head against the old man's arm. But Isaac didn't move. His breathing was shallow. His skin looked pale, thin as paper. His eyes fluttered open slowly, focusing on the lion's worried face. With a weak chuckle, he rasped, "Still here, stubborn as ever." Rami whimpered low in his throat, a sound so full of sorrow it could have broken stone. Isaac reached out a trembling hand, resting it gently against Rami's muzzle. "Listen to me, little king," he whispered. "Today, you must be brave." Rami pressed closer, refusing to leave his side. Outside, the wind stirred the dry grass. The forge stood silent. The goats wandered, sensing the change in the air. Isaac closed his eyes, gathering what little strength he had left. "I have no gold, no land, no treasure to leave behind," he said, voice almost too soft to hear. "Only you. You are my last gift to this world." Rami lay down beside him, his great body curved protectively around the man who had been his world. The sun climbed higher. Isaac's breathing slowed, until it stopped. The old blacksmith, the lonely man who had loved a lion as his son, was gone. For 3 days, Rami did not move from Isaac's side. The villagers, hearing whispers of the blacksmith's passing, came to the edge of the property but dared not enter. They watched in silent awe as the great lion stood guard over his fallen friend. At night, Rami let out long, haunting roars, cries so full of grief that even the stars seemed to shudder. The elders of the village held meetings. Some wanted to drive the lion away. Others argued that Rami had been Isaac's only true family, and to harm him would be a betrayal of the man they all quietly respected. In the end, the village agreed. Let the lion decide his own fate. On the 4th morning, as the mist clung to the earth and the first birds began their songs, Rami stood up. He looked at the house, the cracked walls, the cold forge, the empty chair by the fire. He stepped inside one last time, breathing in the familiar scent of ashes and iron and love. In the center of the room, placed neatly on the table, was something new. A thick leather collar, handmade, heavy but beautiful, with a single word carved carefully into the strap, "Free." Next to it lay a small note, written in Isaac's shaky hand. "You owe no man anything. You owe no cage or loyalty. Walk free, Rami. Walk proud." The lion lowered his great head and pressed his nose against the collar. He understood Isaac's final gift was not a home. It was freedom. Freedom to live, to wander, to be what he was born to be. Not tamed, not trapped, wild, whole, loved. Rami left that morning. He climbed the hills beyond the village, his powerful body moving with the strength that Isaac had helped him build. The villagers watched from their doorways as he disappeared into the golden light, a living legend walking away from their lives. Some swore they saw him pause at the top of the tallest hill, silhouetted against the sun, his mane blowing in the wind. And then they heard it, a roar that shook the trees, rattled the rooftops, and filled the valley with something too big for words. It was not a roar of anger, nor sadness. It was a roar of thanks, a promise carved into the sky itself. I will carry your love across the world. Years passed. New blacksmiths came. New families were born. New lions roamed the hills. But sometimes, when the wind was right and the stars were bright, travelers near the old forge would hear something strange. The low rumble of a lion's roar far off in the distance, and the villagers would smile, shake their heads, and whisper, "That's Rami, the blacksmith's lion, the one who was given no gold, no kingdom, no chains, only love, and he chose to carry it forever." And so the spirit of Isaac lived on, not in gold, not in statues, but in the wild heart of a lion who had once been lost and had been found. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible true stories.